Afternoon, folks. This is actually Super Bowl Sunday. My name's Kyle Leonard. I'm with No Apologies Productions. I wanted to talk to you today about media, which you'll probably be able to get used to because that's kind of what I do pretty often. Very, very oriented in social justice and in my disdain for regular news practices. um, if you can see off to the side, that's a couple pictures of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm a Bengals fan, as you can see here, but some pretty cool pictures. Um, so first, I got turned off from most forms of media after taking broadcast journalism in college. I took a couple of classes that kind of taught me the ways media should be behaving, and I started to realize most of the time they're not. When you watch most news channels in particular, obviously TV shows and stuff count too, but I'm going to stay a little bit away from focusing on those and just kind of talk about what news is doing because I feel like news holds a greater responsibility towards the general public. So when you watch most news channels, it's very sensational. Most things aren't looked at as, oh, yeah, this happened and that was kind of cool. Everything has to have some kind of extra. It always has to have, oh, this was amazing, or this was terrible, this is the worst thing that's ever happened, whether it's with phrases or with particular words. Everything always gets blown up a little bit, usually to an extent that I don't think it really needs to be on. And that part's a personal opinion, but I think it also can be borne out in the way you see, especially in 24-hour news, because everything is sensationalized to the point that everyone's talking about the same thing for 24 hours. There's not a lot of variety. So even though you may technically have different stories, those different stories are always in regards to the same people or the same event or the same group. You don't hear about multiple different groups. You don't hear about multiple people, multiple events. You don't hear the stories that are kind of surrounding everybody and everything. You hear stories in the context of whoever is supposedly the most popular person, but they only became the most popular person because they're the only people you hear from. When I worked for ESPN, which is ESPN, I'm just kind of an asshole, and I like pronouncing things the way I like pronouncing things, which is part of why No Apologies Productions is No Apologies. I'm going to do what I want, and I don't really care. But at the same time, ESPN was a really eye-opening experience for me. I spent a lot more time watching a lot of different news because I was always there, so I was always watching ESPN shows, and I was able to see a little bit more of how things are created and how things come about. And I realized pretty quickly that ESPN tends to ride on the same stories as well. I feel the news needs to be a lot more encompassing and a lot more, I don't want to say necessarily objective. It's really, really hard to be 100% objective, as you can tell in this video. I've already said in my opinion a whole bunch of times, which just gets rid of all objectivity. But you can acknowledge where your biases lie, and most media organizations that I know of don't acknowledge this. They try to claim that they are objective. They're the model of objectivity, and when you go to them, you'll be able to see all different sides of things. And realistically, you don't. You see maybe two sides, and typically those two sides are just so that people can be arguing, because arguing is supposedly more exciting and more interesting. But most media is scared to call out anybody that provides them money. So most sports media isn't going to call out the NFL when they do something wrong. They give platitudes like, oh, you handed down the wrong suspension. But realistically, if all you're worried about is whether they handed down the wrong suspensions or not, then you already missed the point. We ignore the cultures that have been bred. And some of that isn't the media's fault. The media was kind of brought into the cultures that exist already. But the media has perpetuated a lot of different cultures. And this video is going a lot longer than I probably need it to. I tend to ramble, I tend to rant. But you can be sure that I'm going to do this a whole lot more often So this is not going to be the last time you see me, and I can continue this conversation later. For now, I'll leave you with enjoy the Super Bowl, but remember, the Super Bowl isn't about Cam Newton or Peyton Manning. It's not about quarterback versus quarterback. No football game really is, because if you just had two quarterbacks, it'd be a boring ass game. The game is about the two teams playing. There's multiple teams. There's always multiple teams. No, there's not. Kinda. All right. But anyways, back to the point. On every team, there's at least 22 starters, including the quarterback. And then there's another active for every game. Then there's another 26 players. So there's 48 players that suit up every game, all the time. And all we hear about is the quarterbacks. So remember, if you take nothing else away from this particular discussion, remember that things don't have to be sensational to be exciting. I feel like you probably have really exciting things happen in your life all the time that aren't sensational. Football is about more than just the quarterback versus the quarterback. And the media's got some work to do. And we as consumers have every ability to be able to make the media change. Come back and watch me, and I will see if I can convince you to make them change and help me out with that. Visit my website, noapologiesports.com. Wait for No Apologies Productions, which will be coming later. And I hope you enjoy all the videos that you'll end up seeing here and you'll see on my website. Share with your friends and comment below and let me know what you think. I'm Kyle Leonard. I'll see you later.